What's up, everybody? So as many of you know, in December of this year, I joined as the Senior Vice President of Strategy of ExperienceFresh. And I wanted to have a sit-down, stand-up meeting with our co-founder and CEO, Brett Arndt, about why we're different. What is it about the ExperienceFresh agency that is different from the rest, who we serve, and how we do it. And so I'll turn it over to Brett. Let's have a little chat. So why did you start EXF as not just another agency? What is different about ExperienceFresh from the rest of the field?
No, that's good. And one day I'll tell the full story of how we got Alex from client to SVP of Strategy, because that's a good story. When we started ExperienceFresh, EXF was founded in 2011 as a consultancy, and I had a deep background in startup, very early stage, and worked with 4 or 5 different startups in my mid-20s. And actually, funny story is, when I started ExperienceFresh, it was out of the desire to work in the agency space, but no one would hire me. So I was 25, came out of all these different startups, and really fell in love with advertising when I was in the biz dev role. And I was like, I want to take these learns, I want to take some of what we were doing in the startup space and apply it to advertising. And so I interviewed multiple different agencies around, and everyone said, if you want to work in advertising, it's more like a staunchy, like if you want to work in advertising, you need advertising experience.
Right.
So
like chicken or the egg. What do you do?
Exactly. So I, as in you do when you're 25, I said, well, I'm going to go start my own thing. Yeah. It wasn't that easy, and it was a really good journey. And that journey went from consultancy to agency, lasted almost 10 years. So from 2011 till 2019, 8 years, 2011 to 2019, operated as a consultancy, built in-house agency teams, worked across established brands to early stage startup. And what we found a really unique opportunity in the agency space was, how do you align brand strategy and marketing strategy with growth strategy? So at its core, ExperienceFresh, we are an agency. We are a full service agency. We can talk about some of the components that we do, but we are a growth agency. We work with companies of all different shapes and sizes in all different stages to really align their brand and their marketing strategy with their growth strategy.
Well, had you gone and gotten experience, at a different agency somewhere, you wouldn't have had the building it from the ground up knowledge and having those scars from doing that yourself to be able to connect with, the CEO on the other side of the table and have that experience to be able to share, saying, yes, I did this personally as well, right? And so that gives you a completely different dynamic that normally if you had just gone to another agency and built up and kind of learned the way that they do things, you would have just learned this one little piece of the puzzle and you wouldn't have had the rest of that experience to be able to share with them. And so I think that's what attracted me, was having that knowledge of, now Brett and the team know how this whole thing fits together, not just marketing and branding as silos. This is, how does this impact and influence everything? Because it does, right? If you don't nail these 2 pieces, then you can't do the rest of the things well, right? And so, with all of that in mind, how does that then impact what we do as a deliverable? Like, what is it that distinguishes us? How are we different? What do we do that is different than the rest of the competition that's out there?
No, that's I love that question. I think that there's so many elements that I would say are differentiators. But I feel that when we are in the room with clients in some of those early conversations, first, we listen. We're really good listeners, right? And there's so many times that agencies they haven't really evolved into this model of being able to listen and support. There's oftentimes a level of prescribe, right? And that to us is, it's the death of innovation, right? When you do something the same way, and when you sit down and you're not able to relate, but you're able to say, this is what you need because it's always worked. And I think that obviously we've seen a lot of change, both societally, culturally, all of these elements, but on business, things have changed. And to be able to connect with your customers, to be able to connect with your audience, that's what we do. Yes, the brand and marketing alignment with growth, but we create unique digital experiences that really do two elements. They build trust and they build emotional connection between our customers and their audience.
Right. And I know that from experience of just having EXF work with my former employer as a vendor of ours, and it basically, took what we had was 30-year-old language and then transitioned us into a completely different paradigm, right? And so I think that goes to the core value of what ExperienceFresh says. The core values are authenticity, generosity, and beauty, right? And so that first one of authenticity is paramount, because if you're not going to take the time to listen and understand what your authentic voice is and what your authentic story is and what makes your company and your people unique against everybody else, then yeah, you can just go to anybody. You can have a graphic designer do a website for you. You can go to, Fiverr and get a whole bunch of different videographers to do videos for you. But the thing that made EXF different when I was working with them personally was that we sat there and it was very intentional, right? The authenticity was extremely intentional, and we sat in those rooms and we sat in that tension of, is this really what we want to be saying, right? Is this the direction that your organization wants to go? And so I've seen that personally on my side. We're already doing it for the people that we're serving right now. And so it's just a completely different experience of the people that I've worked with in the past that do just come in and they say, here's the templated book, right? Here's the process and the manual and the procedures, and these are all the things that we do, and flip to page 1 and start filling out these answers. And then the byproduct of that is you get, a 6-part, here's what you need to do. And it's cold, and it doesn't lead to that authentic connection with not just the clients that you have and the prospects that you're trying to get their attention, but mainly, and this was my experience, it increases the excitement whenever you deliver that internally to your people, to your employees that are going to be the ones that are carrying out this vision at all. And so that was my experience, and that was what made us stay with ExperienceFresh, is that yes, it had external impact, but the more important one was the internal impact that it made. That is the difference as to who we are. That's the difference as to what we do and how we do it. Mm-hmm. But who is it that we're working with? What do they look like? What's the common themes? And then where is that trending? Where are we heading in the verticals that we serve? But not just that, but like the archetypes, the type of organizations, the type of people that we serve.
Yeah, we've always been about reinvesting into our agency and then reinvesting into our customers. So for us, we become experts before we offer it to our clients.
Right.
And when we started, and we really took that level of a vision of how we could do it different and unique, we started with the core competencies of who we are as an agency: brand strategy, production, design, and digital. And as we started to look at really what our clients needed, right, from a creative agency to full service, initially, our clients really needed that experience. They needed that touch point, that connecting, that emotional trust, and that emotional connection between their brand and their audience. And then we also said, hey, we really need to measure this, right? And that was for us really doubling down and bring digital in-house. And we brought digital in-house. We really said, we have this content that's resonating, but how are we maximizing it? How are we measuring it? We love sitting in that room. We love sitting in that room with both the CEO and the COO. Right? And we talk about ROE versus ROI, right? Return on experience versus return on investment. Because we have to show attribution. We have to show how we are really both building that customer journey and building that customer relationship, but bringing it all the way to the revenue cycle.
Right.
So within those core competencies of strategy, production, design, and digital, there's 4 core verticals that we serve. We serve health and wellness. We serve what we call brick and bev and hospitality, which retail falls under that very deep in-depth vertical. We serve D2C and e-com brands, and then we serve tech and startup. And within those verticals, right, where we have started early on in the tech and startup, And then we evolved into health and wellness. And we started adding these verticals. And what we realized is that there's often agencies that focus on a single vertical. And while there's value to that, what we said is, how do we take the value that exists there, but bring in what makes us us and what our clients continue to ask for, which is, can we bring in industry expert and knowledge in a vertical with out of industry mentality, with out of industry influence?
The fresh ideas.
The fresh ideas.
Right.
So we took that model and we've established account executives that oversee each one of our verticals while retaining our bespoke model of creative. Because there's no greater value than when a health and wellness client is bringing in learns from retail. When a retail client is experiencing what's happening in the D2C and e-com space. And when a tech and startup client is seeing what's happening from some of these other verticals and industries. And what that approach and mentality allows us to do is both really three parts. Serve as that blocking and tackling, really the need that our clients of all shapes and sizes have. But then it also allows us to have that innovation, that how are we thinking on behalf of your organization, of your department, of your venture. And then third is that future forward mentality. We spend time as an agency, non-billable time, as an agency, thinking of ways that we can innovate in a future forward mentality for our clients.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's normally what you would expect when you're hiring an agency, is that they're going to be bringing fresh ideas to the table. But normally it's not what happens. A lot of times people either in construction or financial services, they say, let's go to the agency that knows this the best, right? The vertical specific ones. And that's what happens is you just get the same thing. They'll roll the same playbook that they did for the last 6 clients and just bring that to you. So where's the fresh idea? Right? And I think that's a unique perspective, because as I was sitting in the chair as a client, having the opportunity to say, well, hey, we're doing this in hospitality, we're doing this in e-com, we're doing this in startup land. So if you're trying to bring a new vision to life, if you're trying to come in and say, here's where we're going, and start putting, that North Star out there, you're gonna have to have it influenced by other things rather than just the playbook that has worked for you for the last 15 years. And I think that's where a lot of companies die, is that they stick to the same messaging that they've been doing over and over and over again, and there is no influence of new idea, of fresh concepts, and trying some things, and being authentic enough to say, hey, this did not work so well. Let's pivot and let's go over here, because whenever you set this up over here, you might start over here, but then it starts to move and shift. But really, if there's that trust and there's that relationship that's there, which that's what I see from the ExperienceFresh team, is that there are long-lasting relationships that have gone a million different ways. And I think that's because the company is growing and we're growing alongside them, right?
Yeah.
And that's a huge distinguishing factor, where normally a lot of agencies that you would go with, they're way up here and you're trying to grow and they don't really care about you, and they'll give you, they'll sell you with the A team, and then the C team comes in and kind of, what is it that we're doing again, right? And they have that experience, instead of where this is, we're growing right alongside of you. We're in this with you. So it's a completely different experience.
That's good. Yeah, we and as you are making that decision, right? Because making that agency decision is a hard decision, right? There's some really talented agencies all over the country. For you as the client side, what does that ideal agency look like? I think it's that. It's pick an agency that's a partner and not a vendor. Pick an agency that wants to grow with you, wants to scale with you, and is able to sit back and be able to say, hey, we tried something and it didn't work. Right? Because you cannot bat 1,000, right? And there's agencies that will go in and guarantee that 3x return, and they'll guarantee those numbers on the scoreboard. And for us, if that's the agency, or if that's the relationship that you're looking for, we're certainly not the right agency for that. But if you're looking for an agency that you can grow with, that's authentic, and it's able to really be that outsourced division of both innovation, both brand, both marketing, and to really support your growth and vision, that's the agency, and that's what ExperienceFresh is.
And I mean, to me, that's exactly what makes us different. So thank you, Brett. Everybody stay tuned. We'll see you soon. This is going to be the first of many.